When you first get into CNC, it can be very overwhelming learning all the jargon, getting the machine set up, and learning the CAD and CAM software. In many cases, you simply don't know what tools you need to actually make projects and be successful. Because of this, I find new users buying a myriad of tools and parts they simply do not need as they begin their CNC journey. In this video, I'm going to cover 5 essential tools that I think are crucial to success with your CNC and that I have no regrets buying or recommending to new users. Let's jump right in. First, get yourself a good pair of digital calipers. I find myself reaching for my calipers for nearly every project. I use it so much, I actually keep it right next to my keyboard on my desk. Calipers allow you to measure items very precisely and in a variety of different ways. You can measure the outside dimensions of an item. You can measure the inside dimensions of an item. And you can also measure the depth of a hole or an inset. Certainly, my most frequent use case is getting the thickness of stock material so that I can nail my Z-depth. But they are particularly useful for accurately finding outside dimensions of an item I am modeling or recreating. Without digital calipers, I would be left using a ruler or a tape measure, and my accuracy would undoubtedly suffer. Another not so obvious use case for calipers is simply eyeing up how big or small a dimension is. Now, I tacitly know what a 1/2 inch or a 1/4 inch is. However, I really don't have a good sense of what a 1/10 of an inch is or what a 1/2 a millimeter is. So I set my calipers to that dimension just to get a visual sense of the size. I recently used this technique to figure out the best offset for an outline that I was making. I thought a 1/4 of an inch would be good when I started, but after visualizing it using my calipers, I realized I needed something much larger and I settled on a 1/2 inch instead. Using my calipers in this way saves me time and potentially money since I don't have to make a prototype to learn my size or dimensions are off. If you have another use case for a caliper, please leave your ideas in the comments below. The second item that I do not regret purchasing are inexpensive end mills. I'm not talking about the cheap end mills that will break or lose their edge quickly. I'm talking about good quality end mills that are not very expensive. Why do I recommend these? Well, simply put, you will break end mills when you start using your CNC. Heck, I'm still breaking end mills after 7 years of working with my CNC. The heartbreak and the hit to the wallet is much less when your bit costs $5 versus $45. For example, you can get a 10-pack of these bits on eBay for $32, which is about $3 per bit. Or you can get one of these bits for $33. I obviously have both of these end mills and I love both of them. They both cut extremely well. They both hold their edge very well, making both of them an excellent investment. But I have also snapped both of these end mills, and it was a lot more painful in terms of time and money replacing the $33 end mill versus grabbing another $3 end mill from the shelf and continuing on with my project without any delay. To me, this is a no-brainer. Get good quality tools for a fair price and save a little cash in the process. I will leave links to both of these bits in the description below if you're interested in purchasing some. The third tool I recommend getting is some 1/4 inch end mills. When I first started, I was intimidated by the larger end mills, so I stayed away from them for a long time. Now that I've progressed in my skills, I understand feeds and speeds a little bit better. A 1/4 inch end mill is absolutely my go-to bit for nearly every project. In fact, I only use the smaller diameters if they're needed. I try to design or arrange my parts so that I don't need a smaller diameter. Using 1/4 inch end mills cuts my milling time at least in half when compared to a 1/8 inch end mill. The cut width is twice as large, you can cut twice as deep, and you can usually cut faster with a larger diameter bit. Now, relating back to my previous recommendation, you do not need to purchase super expensive quarter-inch end mills to be successful. Start with some of the less expensive ones, and when you are ready, upgrade if you need to. Look, I love my Amana bits, but my eBay bits are working just as good today as they were 7 years ago when I purchased them. Your mileage may vary though. The fourth thing I recommend starting with is free software over paid software. This one should be a no-brainer, but I cannot tell you the number of times that I've seen people run out and buy CAD software that costs $600 or $700 when they purchased their very first CNC. I believe this is a total waste of money. Generally speaking, the paid software packages are more complete and more capable. But because of this, they are also more complicated and more difficult to learn. If you start with simple software with a limited number of features, there are far fewer variables to learn and far fewer variables to screw up. Let's take Inventable's easel for example. The configurability of the software boils down to setting your bit by looking at a picture and then setting the size of your stock. That is all. Literally no additional work. You can override the stock settings and twiddle with the feed rates and the cutting depths, but you don't have to. Out of the box, Inventables provides values that are completely sufficient to get you up and running and set up for success. As you are learning the basics like profile toolpaths or pockets, you don't have to think about the proper feed rate or depth of cut for the material you're using. Easel takes care of that for you. Compare this to something like Vectric or Carveco. You need to set all of those parameters yourself. You need to know what a good feed rate is, you need to know what your chip load is, what step over you need, and your depth of cut. Now, does all this sound confusing or maybe even overwhelming? Well, that is exactly why I recommend starting with more simple software, and then as your needs grow, find the software that meets your needs. You simply do not need to use a sledgehammer when a regular hammer will do. Finally, and this one might be a little controversial, but I recommend getting a 3D printer to go along with your CNC. Is this necessary? Absolutely not. So why am I recommending it? Because of its utility. I use my printer all the time to make parts, prototype ideas, and simply avoid buying things. Both Thingiverse and Printables is loaded with a myriad of gadgets, gizmos, and parts that you can print at home for your CNC. Things that are necessary like clamps and hold downs, and then things that are just simply not necessary like tool organizers, control boxes, and even end caps to jazz up your machine. You don't need a super expensive printer like a Bamboo X1 or a Prusa i3 Mark IV. Any good quality, low cost printer, such as the Creality Ender 3, would be a good choice. Just don't completely cheap out and get something that does not print reliably and results in more frustration than anything. I will leave a link to my CNC collection on printables if you want to check out some of the amazing things that you can print for yourself in support of your CNC efforts. If you want to try out what I think are two of the best free CAD software packages on the market, I have a tutorial for you with a head-to-head comparison. Check out this video right here or my CNC playlist. Thank you for watching, thank you for getting this far, and don't forget to be inspired.